Go.
Hello.
That was a fast transition. I'm used to our little, I got to set up all our stinger animations again. Welcome back to the MARZ live stream.
Hey,
Are
everybody.
here. And
We are here.
we're doing something a little bit different today.
Yeah.
Cory is almost completely wireless.
Well,
Not wireless, but networked. Networked is the right word.
Yes.
Some parts of his setup are wireless. I don't know if you want to walk through what you got set up, or you want me to walk through it.
Yeah. Totally. So, those of you who have been hanging out here have heard us complaining about our studio setup and the way our stream runs, and those of you watching the stream have seen it drop out a few times recently. So we've been just playing with the setup, trying to improve things a little bit, and also just trying to increase our capability and try some new stuff. So we thought we'd give a few things a shot. One of the main problems we've been trying to solve is how to send audio over the network. So we've been doing networked video for a while, where my Mac has been hooked up, just transmitting a video feed over the network. And what?
Oh, I'm just watching how behind your video is.
From the audio?
Mm-hmm. It was doing really good for a minute there, but I can still hear you perfectly fine. It's just the delay from. It's probably NDI side, from OBS.
It's not my side. Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely OBS doing it.
Yeah. So that's unfortunate. Yeah. So it's possible you are experiencing my audio and video being out of sync. This is one of the big challenges here, and it's a tough thing to troubleshoot because it's variable. As the network gets more or less congested, different apps will delay things by different amounts, and so I wonder, dude, if we need to get into some sort of time code or something like that to keep everything in sync.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to look into it some more. Been doing a lot of research on how we're gonna improve the lab or the studio here, and what all we can do to make it, more state of the art, so that when students come in and want to learn about this stuff, they're learning the new stuff and what's being built in studios right now. Of course, there's always the financial barrier to those things, because a lot of this equipment is, especially the pro grade stuff, is very expensive. But at least having our own little version of things. So
Totally.
We've talked a lot about what all we think is useful in these kind of jobs, and what we see as what people need around here, even locally. So those things are doing sound mixing, sound cues, lighting cues, running cameras, running switchers, and gosh, a whole host of other things. But we want to have a little bit of all of that here for you guys to try out and learn if you want to. So,
and we also don't want it to be 10 years ago's technology that you learn on, because by the time you've learned it, by the time you started learning, it's already out of date, and by the time you're done learning, there's already 2 new things.
Right.
So trying to stay ahead of the curve. So the network stuff is something where real pros are already deep into this, and we were kind of scratching the surface. Because we aren't really generally working in the sort of demanding environments and with the demanding applications that network stuff requires. So what's the advantage of that? One is transmitting large amounts of data with fewer cables. So it's just one Ethernet cable to send everything that you need to send, instead of just a bajillion audio cables or whatever.
And that includes power too.
Yeah, so you can power devices. So you can do longer cable runs. You can chain things. You can make things accessible from different places. It's all very interesting and cool. And so a lot of gear that you're, if you're going out to events, or, certainly if you're watching media, you're watching stuff produced with gear that has these capabilities already. When we're out there using digital mixers in the field, those mixers talk network protocols and do stuff like that. So that's better.
A little reframing. You guys can probably tell that we're definitely using 2 different cameras this time.
Yeah.
It's pretty obvious, and the iPhone doesn't give us a lot of options to change. So
totally. So this is my phone camera right now. So about the setup, right? So we're trying to put more things on the network and do less of audio video cabling, because it's just data. Well, the audio we've been sending analog audio actually, but it started out as data from my computer, and there's not really. It's just so simply that way. So we're testing it out, and Jay found this cool app to let us do audio over the network, and we're already doing video over the network. And then also a recent Mac OS update allows us to use our phones as webcams, and they're like, it's shockingly good. Y'all can't tell on the stream because you're getting the latency from my computer transmitting my video over the network to Jay, but the video feed that I see on my screen from my phone is pretty much instantaneous, and that's a wireless connection. So I just have it up here on a tripod, like just between me and my TV monitor. So I have my laptop here, like right in front of me, and then behind that, here's the camera, and then behind that, there's a display. And so it's a little kind of in my way, in my face, but like it's getting me really good. I am like a little like post-processed and washed out, and we've been trying to play with the lighting. I look better on my own screen than I do in there. Like
I might be able to do some adjusting in here, but here I'll give you guys a short tour.
Yeah, you can see what I've got going on.
Yeah, let me fade over so Corey doesn't have to take his phone off.
Yeah, I'll keep chatting while you're doing this. So cool. Yeah, I guess if you guys haven't seen this in a minute, so this is Jay's interior setup. He's got the dual monitors for running OBS, and then third one. Are you running that third one right now?
Yep. What's that? Oh, my phone?
No, you're the third display up above there.
Oh, no, not yet.
Oh, right,
I had some issues with the graphics card.
Right, yeah. So we're having issues pushing that, but I'm getting... There's another display being fed out here. That's a copy of the display. I can see basically a copy of the display on the right.
Yeah, this one here.
Is my big TV out here. So that mixer you can see in the lower left is normally where we're getting all of our audio sources from. But right now it's not doing a whole lot. That feed that you're seeing moving is the computer's audio, right? That's the audio.
Yes, it's the computer's, but it's Corey's and also it's his laptop and him. So that's the only downside of this setup with the networked audio, which we'll talk about more here in a minute. But I do want to get one.
It's the downside with networked audio when your mixer is not networked.
Right.
So this mixer has USB features, but it is just a pretty simple analog mixer, and so it does some of the things we need to do, but not all. Anyways,
it is great though.
It's been awesome.
I have loved it so far.
Yeah, you find me another mixer with 6 stereo outputs at that price point, I'll buy it. So, yeah, we got that thing because it has a bajillion headphone outputs with like headphone amps. It has 5 fully stereo headphone outputs. So it's great for students if any students wanted to come work on this. So you're starting to hear me a little more because Jay's stepping out into the room with his laugh.
Yeah, let me mute myself so we don't.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, wow. So now it's just me. So here's my setup. It does look like there's a lot of wires around here, right? But you can see a lot of them are plugged in because we had this redundant setup here just in case that some of this failed. So I am, instead of using the lav mic like I've been normally doing, I am on, just to test it, on a wired condenser. This is, the Rode M3. I like this mic. It's good, like all-rounder, medium diaphragm. It's done a good job. And I'm using the Focusrite to power it, and I'm using this as a headphone situation, although that could certainly be plugged into my headphone jack. So I have phantom power powering my mic, my input monitoring here, or my input gain in the preamp here. This isn't actually going anywhere. And so here's my headphone volume, which is cranked all the way. And so and my direct monitoring is off because I don't want to I can't hear myself right now. I'm trusting that I set my levels correctly and that Jay set the levels for the stream correctly so I don't sound like garbage right now. And yeah, so we set up, we tried this in a way where I didn't need this at all, where I was just using the built-in mic from my laptop, which is okay. Let me see if we can engage that right now without having a disaster. Although, actually, let's not do that because if there's a disaster, we won't know. Yeah, it's pretty cool. If I had a USB microphone, it would make this box redundant. These are a USB microphone combines these two functions, and if we're using the laptop mic, it would be I wouldn't need this at all. My phone is plugged in because I'm concerned about it dying, but the connection is wireless. So my webcam feed is purely over Wi-Fi to my laptop. That's pretty cool. And then my laptop is wired, so I have a hardwired Ethernet connection here, which you need a dongle for, but it's fine. And that the Xbox controllers here just for looks. So the wire connection just like gives me stability and like a little better bandwidth, so I'm not like trying to like get in a congested Wi-Fi network. But that's pretty much the deal. So my monitoring, like before we'd have like this cable here would be my like headphone return, and then these two like those two silver like 1/4-inch plugs there on the floor would be plugged into the back of my interface to capture my computer audio. So the wireless setup here has replaced, or the network setup here. I should stop saying wireless, right? The network setup here for the audio has replaced 2 cables running that way, 1 cable running this way, and the wireless mic thing. Yeah, so that big old snake, it's not actually being used at all, is it? Oh no, just to feed the TV. So one HDMI cable. Normally we're using 2 HDMI cables, 3 or 4 audio cables, and the Ethernet cable as well. And sometimes even another. Yeah. Anyway, so it's getting a lot simpler. There's a lot of wires around, but they're not connecting between the things, which means that I could be, if I have a wired connection somewhere where I feel comfortable, I can plug my phone in and get the same thing on my phone, and then I can do this pretty much wherever. So definitely next time we do this, I'm going to try doing it from somewhere else in the building. It'll be fun. Definitely needs to be somewhere where I can connect to our nice fast network, because because the rest of the network and the rest of the building isn't as nice. Yeah. Gosh. Ooh, the view from the other side. Anyways, so that's my cute little setup today. Pretty stoked with the stability of it so far. We've had some strange dropouts when we're testing this, but like the phone thing works pretty good. Although, man, I feel huge on this camera right now. The iPhone cameras, you don't get much control, and there's like all kinds of post processing that they do. So I feel like pretty like HDR to death at the moment.
That's one of the big things that I'm looking forward to. So one of the things I've been kind of looking at for a while now are PTZ cameras. So a lot of times when we're in here, it's just the 2 of us. And if students do come in, I want them to have the ability to either produce their own shows with a very minimal crew, or at least learn how to use PTZ cameras, because that's really common in any like if you're running like public meetings or something, like if you're working for the county or the city and you're doing like, which is a pretty common job. I did that for a little while. That's why I learned how to do a lot of the PTZ stuff. It's all going to be like on a controller. You're going to be switching cameras. You're going to be setting presets to like line up different shots and stuff. It's really good to learn. So I'm hoping to get a few in here, but the nice thing is you get 3 of those. You can set all the settings the same and you can leave them set up. The thing with the camcorders we use is that they're being used in different scenarios where we change the settings, and so every time it's something different, and I don't have it like locked in with the settings, and there's no manual white balance, and there's a lot of things to it that just like add a lot of layers of complexity that make it difficult to match shots. So, and different lighting, of course, like the lights in here are different than the lights out there. So there's a lot of things that we're going to try to kind of, what would be the word, like unify, I guess, make it all the same so that everything looks nice and every camera you switch to looks the same. And so with PTZs, of course, those are pan, tilt, zoom cameras. You can use a little joystick or even like an Xbox controller and move them around and control, which way they're looking. So essentially it's like having 3, if you had 3 out here, you have 3 camera ops at your fingertips, or you can control them right here in the studio. So that's sort of the plan we're looking at with at least that. And those are all also NDI. So 1 Ethernet cable, 1 Cat6 cable, can power, can send data, can also run tally and talkback, which isn't really necessary, I feel like, on a PTZ camera. But the option is there if you need it. And then the other thing, of course, that we just talked about was the networked audio. And there's a lot of different systems out there for this stuff. I feel like there's some that we have wanted to try, like Dante, and what's the other one called? There's another one that's really popular too.
Maddie is one. AES 50. These are terms I hear, but I've not looked at them. So like.
So it's something that it's hard to learn if you don't have access to the equipment. So, but what we're using is neither. I don't think, unless I don't remember it specifying. But this app we have here, I don't know if do you want to share your screen or you want me to?
Oh, sure. I was just looking at the Wikipedia list of audio networking protocols. There's this one called Ravenna that I've heard about.
Oh, okay.
It'd be interesting to see what which one this thing runs on, or if it's doing its own proprietary thing. Anyways, yeah, feel free to check out my screen.
All
Take
right.
a look, and we'll talk about how I got this stuff set up. I wanted to show off a little bit about I'm a Mac guy because I do audio, and I wanted to show off a little bit about why I think that's good, doing audio on the Mac. So this is Sonobus.
I also have it over here too, so it is cross-platform for
I
anybody
guess I
that's
don't need
wondering.
this like OBS window up here. Yeah, so we were very happy to find a well, that's heinous in that.
Full screen.
Yeah, it's not helpful at all.
It does have that ability at least.
Yeah. Yes. So, what do I want to say about this? So, yeah, Sonobus is basically like, it's kind of confusing to look at, but what we're seeing here is basically like a mixer that includes all attached devices on the network. So this is a like networked session that I connected to that Jay's hosting on the network. And when we're connected, I can set up like the top here is my input settings. And then down here are other people's input settings. And so I don't get a lot of like options to do stuff because like I can't actually, I don't have a ton of control over what you're sending here, Jay. I wonder do you see more options for my audio?
I believe I can actually change. I'll show you real quick over here.
Yeah.
I get a few, like I could show you, well, I could send you this is where I think I set my send quality. We're still both learning how to use this all. So, but I think I can change my send quality. I'm assuming that's what this is. So what I send you, and then I can also see all your channels. So this is the quality at which I'm sending to you, and then also change some of the buffer sizes and things like that.
I think that's...
I believe this is what I'm sending you, because I've got it only set to 48. Yeah. So
and you're only sending one channel of audio to me, right? Which is why I don't have settings available.
I think that's probably why. I'm just sending the one channel, one mono, because it's just dialogue. I don't need the stereo. So
got it. Cool. So I wasn't sure if it was you had some special privileges because you were you had created the session or not. I don't think that's the case.
I don't believe so.
So we can show and hide the input mixer here, and that maybe here's just like the reception controls. Here's what I get. I get one level control for Jay's one channel. I can pan it left to right if I want to. But here's my input mixer. And so you can see I've got 3 channels of input, which Jay can see down there. Mm-hmm. One channel, which is input 3, which is my microphone, and then channel 1 and 2, which is my system audio. I achieved this in kind of like a funny way. It took me a minute of head scratching to sort of figure out how to do this. But the trick, the real like kind of like life-saving trick here was this like cool Mac feature. I think you can do this sort of thing on Windows too, but I've never had to. And I've rarely ever had to do this on Mac. But basically, I've combined 2 audio interfaces into one. In the audio input section, you can see here's a list of all my available audio inputs. My phone's mic is available. So is my laptop's mic. So is my audio interface. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different virtual, or what Mac OS calls aggregate audio interfaces.
So that's them combined together, huh?
Yeah. So the trick I've been using all along to route audio to various places is this thing called black hole. There's 2 things about this. There's different apps for this for Windows, and my understanding is that there's now sort of baked in abilities to do this in Mac OS, but I have yet to figure out how to get it to work correctly. So I'm still hung up in the old school method, which is, get my little GPU glitch there. And then here we go. Black Hole allows me to send audio either from Ableton or also to use the system device, which is also Black Hole right now. So any audio source I have, like I just like pull open the tune from the stream last time, I guess. And this outputs, so I'll outputs this to OBS when I'm making recordings for classes or stuff like that, or if I'm trying to like do like a little tutorial video where I need to do voiceover along with the music and have some screen capping. But I couldn't figure, so if I was sending just the Ableton audio to Jay, I didn't have a way to also capture my voice without sending it through Ableton and then sending it to Jay as a stereo 2-track, which I didn't want to do because then Jay can't mix it, right? He's got control over the level of my music and my voice as separate things.
But it is working.
So you can see here it comes into Sonobus as its own input. You can even put effects on it. It has a gate, compressor, EQ, and a reverb send.
Oh, wait, yeah. Oh, sweet.
Which is kind of cool. So if you wanted to get into that, this is a stupid loud beat, so.
Yeah. I've already got it turned down on my end too.
Yeah. Which is pretty clutch. So like, it's really cool. So I can create my own mix. I get these, so I have these faders here for the pre-level. So this will like determine like how loud it goes to the Sonobus. Mm-hmm. And then over here I have my own monitoring level. So I have like, this is the monitoring level for my mic, and I have it turned off. I think I'm actually going to turn it up a little bit because it's nice to hear myself a smidge. With the lavs, it's less important, but with this mic, if I get off axis, I get all quiet, and so like, it's kind of helpful to know like what people are hearing. Yeah, I get. Oh, there's monitoring effects. You can delay the monitoring signal, and you can link. Whoa, dude, this is so interesting.
Yeah, there's a lot of settings in here. We're just like scratching the surface. I feel like
this does a lot of cool stuff. The only way I could get the ability to mix and let Jay also mix the monitoring stuff here was if I could get everything to show up in Sonobus as one input device for multiple places. And so I did that using the audio MIDI setup here in macOS. And I will just create a new one. I'll show you how to do it. So if you press this plus button, you get some interesting options. But I'm going to create an aggregate device. And this basically gives me a drop-down list of every audio device I have. Then say like I wanted to make a new one of these that combines, I don't know, let's grab like my iPhone mic and the Black Hole out of Ableton.
Wow. So
this is how it appears. And I love this. It's color coded. You can like sort of decide which is like the there's like a way to set the master and slave device. Oh, a clock source. Right. We don't use that terminology anymore anyways. So you can like set which one you're focused on here, and like you can name these channels so they're easy to look at. I don't think I can demonstrate how this turns out for you because I have to quit and reopen Sonobus in order to get it to see this correctly. But basically,
really
like
cool,
like Black Hole has 2 inputs, the mic has 1, and now this thing has 3. The mic doesn't have an output, so it doesn't appear here, but I get my 2 outputs from Black Hole.
And that's all built in, right?
This is a native function, yeah.
Wow. That's really cool.
Totally. And so, yeah. Oh, I'm clipping this mic really bad right now. Let me turn my input volume down. Good thing I'm monitoring myself. I wouldn't have known. Another great reason to monitor. You find out when you're doing poorly immediately. So other things I can do. So over here, I've created one of these devices. I'll show you the one that I'm using right now, which is a device that combines Black Hole and the inputs on the Focusrite. So right now they're not labeled nicely. There's labels input 1 and 2, which is their default name. if I change these, I don't think they'll change over here. But you'd probably do something smart like label the virtual inputs as virtual or something like that. Because over here, they just appear as input 1, input 2, input 1, and input 2, which isn't very helpful. So notice I have input number 2 disabled because I'm only using one of the mic inputs, which is fine. I can enable it if I felt like it, but I don't. And then, yeah, the outputs, well, I'm actually out. So here's the other fun thing. I don't know how easy this is to do on Windows, but on Mac it's trivial. I'm outputting from a different device that I'm using as an input device. And so I'm not bothering with this whole aggregate device scheme, and I'm just spitting audio out the Scarlett straight away to my headphones.
Sweet.
Yeah, so I just noticing my buffer size is kind of big. I got this thing all the way down to 16 samples earlier with like, but now we're dropping stuff. Anyway, it seemed pretty efficient, which is cool.
Lower it down a little bit.
Yeah, it's actually dropping your signal to me.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if it's
yeah. Mine is solid.
Yeah, I just got a glitch the previous thing you just said.
Oh, okay.
It's okay.
A solid break there.
Yeah, this will matter if we're trying to do live stuff in Ableton. So like,
right.
One of the tricky things. Oh, I gotta delete. Oh, I did. Okay, got plugins not on there. One of the tricky things about this whole thing is like, if I am trying to play an instrument. Back here, this buffer size was set by default to 512, which is nice and like, that's pretty good. That's not. Maybe this is just the receiving buffer size.
You're direct monitoring, aren't you?
This was affecting something earlier. I'm not direct monitoring.
Well, you're not?
No, I'm monitoring my audio, my music through Sonobus.
Oh.
But so right. Okay, so buffer size, right, is how long your app thinks about sounds before it spits them out. So I have Ableton cranked down to, here, let's put it as lowest possible buffer size, 32 samples. And this feels pretty instantaneous to me. Like I'm playing MIDI on my little wireless keyboard here. Feels pretty like speedy. But I'm like curious if I like crank this buffer size up, does it get worse? Well, oh yeah, it's like it's completely different. Like,
plus we get the lag from the NDI too.
I don't know what your experience is like.
You're definitely dropping out more now, though. I can tell we're just. I don't know how well you guys can hear it on the stream or like what's coming through there, but there is a little bit of like.
I would think it would drop out less then because it was such a high buffer size. But anyway, so like at 64 samples, it's like this thing's adding very little latency. So I have like I think a total of like 2 milliseconds of latency on this MIDI input. It's that's a faster response than you get playing your guitar through an amp from 5 feet away. So it's pretty good. Oh yeah, nice. Yeah. Sound takes roughly 1 millisecond to travel 1 foot in air, very roughly. And so, yeah, when you're thinking about input latency, it's like, or like latency in general of like things you're hearing. It's like, if you're comfortable standing a few feet away from the speaker, you're comfortable with that many milliseconds of latency. Same thing, same diff.
I can. You want me to show how it's set up on Windows too, with the Zoom?
Sure. Yeah. I guess. Yeah. Just. I think this is everything about how my side of things is working. So I have Ableton virtually routed into Sonobus, and the Focusrite directly routed via the aggregate audio device, and that allows it to appear as multiple channels to Jay, who can then mix them from his end.
Sweet. Yeah. So let me swap over real quick. I'm going to cover Cory's view for a minute. All right, so here we are in the same thing. I gotta move the chat out of the way.
Oh, I just noticed it's sending to you in that lower quality. Interesting.
Here? Oh.
No, I noticed that I'm sending you in a low quality. I tried to switch it to that 256 quality, but it's coming to you at 96. So.
Yeah, I'm not sure. There's like a lot of layers of where you're sending what.
I'm interested to know if I start dropping out more now.
I'll listen for it.
Yeah.
We'll see. So basically what I'm looking at here is here's Cory's computer. There's 3 channels coming in. There's the one for the mic and one for the music. So anytime that he talks, you'll see this one go up, and anytime that he plays music, you'll see these 2 go up. So pretty straightforward. I don't really have to do anything. I just join this group. When you're not connected, which I won't disconnect right now, but when you're not connected, there's a button up here on the top. You just click that, you set up a group, and then everybody else on the network can just type in that group and join in, and it works flawlessly.
You can also set it to auto join the last connected one, which I've been doing, and it's awesome. So like, we just boot this up and we're just in the session together without thinking about it. It's great.
It's pretty sweet. So I definitely recommend trying it out. It is free too, so go for it. You'll download it. You can play Spotify on all your computers at the same time if you wanted to.
Although, okay, all right. So this is the amazing thing, right? You can play Spotify out of all your things. Normally you need like one of those like, ironically, similarly named Sonos systems to like get that. That's like the only commercial product I know that lets you really do that. Multi-channel audio throughout your house without a bunch of wires or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But what we were noticing is that like when we were playing Spotify on one machine and like spitting it out on multiple different ones, was that there seems to be some network latency, and that I think you'd have to go through and dial in some sort of latency adjustment to make sure they actually all played at the same time.
Yeah, there is that. Some of the preferences for like setting your latency. You can see all those all your numbers here, like what your incoming and outgoing latency is and stuff like that. But there's ways you can get into the settings and sort of dial that stuff in. So there's some like auto drop threshold. There's different ways you could set up the buffer. I think there's even I think that's some of the main settings, but you could kind of configure it some more than we have. But for my audio, it's a little bit different because I'm on Windows. I'm using the ASIO drivers, not the Windows audio stuff, which is usually pretty garbage. With that on, I can still see the zoom, but with the ASIO driver, I could see all of my different channels on the zoom. So I get all 12 of my inputs, which is awesome. And that's the 8 XLR inputs and the 2 these are both like 9 and 10 and 11 and 12 are stereo inputs. So 11 and 12 is what I've been using for Cory's computer usually, so out from the Focusrite and into the mixer, and I get that nice stereo signal. So, but right now, these are all just set up so they all are acting as inputs, and same with the 4 outputs. So I have my master outputs, and then I think it's like, I believe there's...
I think that's actually really interesting because I think you should have a lot more outputs. Shouldn't you have like 12?
Well, see, I don't think every channel... That's a good question. They may be paired. I don't know if they're paired.
Well, okay. All right. Wait. Okay, I'm sorry. Let me walk my statement back, Jay. You have 12 channels of outputs, of analog outputs from that mixer.
Right.
But you don't have... You have... you out one... I can tell you what those are. 1, 2, 3, and 4. 1 and 2 are probably your main outs, right?
Right.
And 3 and 4 are your USB return for channels 9 and 10, right?
Oh, right. Okay, that makes more sense. Yeah.
So this mixer does have this funny thing where you can play. You can like, it has USB input to the system, and then it also has USB output to a channel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what I'm doing right now.
Right. So you can connect it to your computer, play back audio from your computer, and just mix it in there as if it was coming from an analog input.
Yeah.
So I think if you were to output your master audio to that input, you could create a feedback loop.
Oh, okay. I think that's probably what I was doing before.
I think that's what you're doing before.
Yeah, probably.
Because there's no...
It was sounding weird.
That's exactly why there was a feedback loop before. I wasn't there when you solved that, but there's nowhere that they would be happening in the analog domain, so it has to be there.
Right.
Yeah. So you could disable that 3 and 4, like if you weren't planning on using this for that purpose.
Right.
But I don't know.
It seems like it's working fine.
It's all working
right
fine
now.
Yeah, how you got it set now is working just fine.
Yeah. So of course you get all your devices and stuff.
So notice the
then-
difference is like in Windows, you get your device type selection. You get to choose these different driver options. Whereas
Right.
on Mac, they all run on what's called core audio. And then here in your device dropdown, you only get to choose. You get to choose one device. Whereas on the Mac, you always get the option for different input and output devices, which is kind of
I
annoying.
see.
How often do you actually want? Surprisingly often, actually, but.
Yeah.
It's cool. So I can have different input device and output device, or if I need to, that's kind of an aggregate device already, and that's like not even without jumping into this menu. That's just like I can, I just get two choices, right?
Right.
But then I can aggregate them if I need those choices to be even more robust. It's pretty wild.
So it's pretty awesome. I definitely recommend trying this out if you're trying to do any kind of network. You could even do if you're, say you're doing like NDI. I know a lot of people are using NDI in the gaming like streaming world because they're sending. If you have another computer that's dedicated just for processing and streaming, and then you have your gaming PC, and your gaming PC is sending an NDI signal screen capture. But what if you have like multiple audio devices hooked up to that computer or something, and you want to send different layers of audio? You can actually do some mixing in here after the fact and connect those two computers together over the network without the needs of any extra, like this is your mixer essentially, which is pretty nice because OBS has a lot of mixing stuff, but you can't send audio over the network in OBS. So definitely recommend checking this out. You can do, it seems like you can do a lot of extra, there's all the effects and things that Cory was talking about that we haven't even touched yet.
Right. Yeah.
So,
I actually kind of wonder if like, did you see that? Is that compressed? Click the power button on that compressor real quick. Okay, cool. I just saw the auto button lit up. I was like, was this on already?
Yep.
But it wasn't. But it wasn't. You could turn that back off probably. So the other thing to build on what you're just saying, Jay, the other thing that I think is like borderline revolutionary about this is that everyone's receiving a multi-channel audio over the network, so we all get our own mixes. So like
right.
I was saying, I can set my levels of my inputs, and I can set my monitoring level. And then I can also, like Jay can set those levels independently as well. So like he has his own input level for my audio, which is like after, I set these volumes here in the mixer, the pre-level, that's like before it hits the network. But once it's on the network, everyone else gets to choose their own adventure with the mix. And this is how this stuff works, except usually like in audio land, like most people are used to having to ask somebody to do this for them. Oh, please, more guitar in the monitors, please. Oh, please. And so like it's pretty cool. Like you can just do it yourself. A lot of like pro, like if you watch, keep your eyes peeled if you're watching like big pro bands play like on a big pro stage, like if you're watching a performance or go to a show or something. If you ever see like a little like kind of like little like box thing like strapped onto their like mic stand like this.
Oh yeah.
A lot of the time what that is a monitor controller. Like a monitor or what they call like a personal monitor mixer. I accidentally just turned my keyboard off when that happened. So you can it's basically this. You get your like input controls, and you like have your like everyone's signals are being routed to some like master system, and I think these things are usually like Ethernet style these days. These would be part of a bigger network audio production where everyone's analog inputs go to a networked box. That network box goes to a networked mixer, and that network mixer connects to other networked sub-mixers, which is what I'm talking about. So like, yeah, you can control like your own personal monitor mix.
Yeah.
And probably it's like the monitor engineer can also control it, so you get like you're like two people kind of providing input or whatever. I don't know. I think it's pretty cool. So like like they help you dial it in, but then if you need to make a change, you don't have to like communicate to someone that you need some help. Like you're busy. Like when you're on stage, you don't want to be like, hey, like it kind of, I don't know. I mean, anyone who's seen live music where people are just like chatting it up to the people in monitor land are like, you know, I mean, it's just a fact of life. You just have to do it sometimes. But like, if you know, it feels more pro just to be able to just like grab the knob and just solve the problem yourself.
Yeah.
And especially on those giant stages where, you know, like monitor world might be like 100 feet away from you or something. You're like, you know, you might not have line of sight to them. Or
And that's the pretty amazing thing about, like, you're talking about like the networking stuff too, is just how much you can send over Ethernet always amazes me, and what you can do with that cable. Like, you know, we have you know, TVs with 4K and whatever on HDMI cable, and that's what we're running mostly in here before. But like, you step it up to an Ethernet cable, and you know, you think about it, and you're at home and you're streaming Netflix on 3 different devices at 4K, and like these, you know, the protocols within the world of internet can carry so much data so quickly, and that's what it's designed to do. And you know, that's why I feel like it is definitely the future of this sort of this technology, and being able to like connect everything. Because at this point, almost all of the pieces of a production can be run or connected to the network in some way. Whether it's like, if you're doing lights, you're probably connecting your DMX, you know, all your DMX protocol stuff. That's all your light controls to a wireless device that then you can hook up to your iPad. The same way you can connect your mixers, you know, your network mixers to a bunch of network devices, and you know, controlling lights wirelessly, doing, you know, then controlling all your cameras wirelessly from a tablet and things like that. So it's all going in that direction where it's all based, you know, one cable, one, you know, that supplies, you know, right now a lot of people do that with fiber, but fiber is pretty expensive, and not the cable necessarily, but the hardware it takes to process fiber optics signals is pretty pricey. So getting into that ecosystem is challenging. But with Ethernet, this stuff's been around for a long time, and so there's lots of cabling out there that's really good quality. There's lots of devices out there that are enabled with Ethernet and have wireless capabilities. So
it really needs fiber. Like, fibers for what? Like long runs and like huge data flow, right?
yeah, I think if you're, you know, if you just take, for instance, like, you know, you're doing a football game in those huge stadiums, that's probably all fiber optics throughout the whole stadium, all the cameras and stuff. Those big setups for, you know, TV studios and things are probably all running fiber at this point. If it's modern, if it's not, it's probably the other protocol is SDI, which is a coax cable kind of setup, which can still process a lot of information. But the problem with the coax stuff is that you usually have to send 2 cables to each camera. So there's still a lot of like modern cameras that will do that. If you have like take for instance the Blackmagic studio cameras, the new ones that they have 2 SDI ports on them. So like, one is the out and one is the in. So you can send in a signal for tally and everything, but they're one directional. So you can't send data back and forth. You can with an HDMI cable, but you can't with SDI. So you end up having to run 2 cables to every camera, and that doesn't provide power or anything. You still have to power those cameras or run them on batteries. But an Ethernet cable, HDMI can't provide power. I think it has a very minimal amount, actually, because there are some devices like there's some HDMI splitters that can run off power, but the device itself has to supply that power. So if you plug it into a Xbox or something, you know, it has to be able to provide that power. And like, some laptops won't do it. I've noticed that switcher that I have, that little plastic one, there's some things that it won't be powered from. You know, it varies, and that's a hard spec to find in your, you know, spec sheet for computers and stuff.
Right,
Like, does my HDMI supply power? It's like, and it's very little too. So, but the PoE stuff, power over Ethernet, is very common. There's a lot of switchers. They're pretty affordable. You know, that's what we've done here in the studio, is built out the capability to run those types of devices. So, you know, security cameras are like that. They're all PoE most of the time. A lot of our router is PoE, so you just plug in the cable and it powers it. it's all powered to the one cable. So
So cool.
yeah, I'm excited to build out the studio, and anybody that's it's pretty nerdy stuff, but if you're getting into the industry and you're curious about how all this stuff works, I want to be able to help students learn about this stuff and explore all the cool technology that's always changing, and it's kind of a hard world to break into. Even Corey and I are still, like, a lot of these things we're still learning about and figuring out how it all works, and you kind of have to have access to it to be able to do it. So
Totally. Yeah, the access thing is huge, and like the also the kind of like the need, like if you're not doing the kind of work that takes you to that place, you might not ever like wish you had access to it.
Right.
Like it's definitely not something that was really on my radar for a long time. But the like, it seems like the last 5 years, it's just the digital mixer transition has like kind of like completed, and I don't think I know anyone who is out there working professionally who doesn't have one as their main rig. Like only little small fish are doing that. Even just everyone running sound in Humboldt has a digital mixer now, as far as I can tell. So if like now, if you're going to get a gig, that's what you're going to get hired to use, is something that uses these uses this tech. There's just, I think it's harder to find an analog board anywhere.
Yeah.
Guess like where was the last time, like we have some analog boards. Like last time I had to run sound. Oh, the NCRT I think has an analog board still.
Oh, okay.
But like their sound needs are pretty simple. Like they're not mixing multi-band shows often. I think as soon as you start having like more than one band, it's like you start really being grateful for the digital aspect of the board with like recallable settings and stuff like that.
Right.
But the network stuff, that doesn't even come into play until you start like getting bigger. Like Tofu, who runs tons of sound for tons of shows around here, like has his digital board. He has a digital snake, and so like his stage box is just it's a single Ethernet cable to the stage from his mixer.
See that?
Instead
Yeah,
of like
awesome.
like when he brings his analog board, he has a suitcase that's like this big
Of just cables?
of just the snake of
Oh,
one
the
cable.
one snake that's
One snake.
massive.
Yeah, it takes an entire like big suitcase because it's got to be like 100 feet long to get to the front of house.
Wow.
And that's just the snake to connect. Right, I guess like that thing probably has the direct box on the end of it.
That's
like
pretty
direct,
crazy.
right? Like.
It is like two big boxes on either, or like a box on one end.
There's a
And
box on one end and like a
and then
giant snake with like
splits
like,
out into
into whatever 20
Wow.
connections at the end. And like those things are expensive and blah blah blah. So instead of that, it's just an Ethernet cable.
I mean, yeah, you just spool that up, and you got like there's one like running out here that's 100 foot, and it's like it doesn't take. I can spool it up into something like that big, yeah.
And it weighs nothing.
Right.
Dude, like
It's
this,
really light.
this suitcase is like weighs as much as the mixer. It's crazy. Yeah. So it's really just nice. But beyond that, like replacing the snake is like really like is the idea, right? Like because if you're just running one audio cable, like who cares whether it's audio or Ethernet? But if you're so what the Ethernet thing does is replace snakes, especially like because it's bidirectional, right? So like you can send stuff and receive stuff. It can be multi-format, so it can be audio and video. It replaces a lot. But like you don't really end up in like a fully networked audio environment until you start needing multiple snakes snaking to multiple places. Like until you have like front of house and monitor mixers, separate engineers, separate places, like, or if there's like a lighting world where they need an audio feed, and maybe they have like, or something like that, or like a broadcast world where they need a feed.
Right.
And so like we were talking about how like a lot of this like networked audio stuff is being led by mega churches. It's the worship sound, as they call it, and these like ginormous churches with tons of money from their members like put a ton of money into these big AV setups. I'm sure some people listening to the stream have been or regularly attend a place like that. There's definitely one not too far from here that is the most beautiful sounding, most gorgeously appointed, best set up room for live music. But it's yeah. Anyways, so like I know at this place there's like a separate room with a separate mixer that is just the mix like for the live stream of the performance, and so like that has to all be networked because like you're not like it's incredibly impractical to snake 48 channels to one place and then snake it elsewhere.
Right.
Much less like redundant, split it or whatever. All that, it's like it gets wild, and you just like all the input sources are just there on the network, and you just pull them into whatever device you need them.
Yeah.
And yeah, so like this like multi-room, multi-facility thing where different things are going on is really where it comes into play. So unless you have like a multi-room recording studio or like this sort of like fully AV production, then you might not have a reason to get into it.
We'd love to, get somewhere close to that here. I would be really cool to be able to like have something going on out here, and then have somebody be able to walk over into the recording studio and just like jump right on that computer and it be like ready to go, all connected. So you can have like a live recording session, just like all, have a network camera in the recording studio, have a network camera in the in the live or in the recording room and everything, and then have everything out here so you could like switch between the rooms, and or even like if folks are playing esports stuff in the computer lab, like capture all the computers. And I mean, it's a big setup, but you can do it with this stuff, and that allows you like I don't have to run cables through the hallway and down every corridor just to get capture with capture cards in every computer and everything. It would be a nightmare.
We drilled 3 holes in the wall to run cables, and we'd need to do more if we were trying to run any more.
Yeah, true.
Or at least, no, we drilled more than 3, I think, but 3 big ones. That are like this.
Wow.
One big application for this audio networking thing that we were thinking about right away is we have like right behind me our computer lab with like a teacher station and an audio interface hooked up to some speakers, and then 5 student computers that just have headphone outputs. And so if my students want to share audio, I can go plug into a headphone splitter and listen with them on cans. And if they want to play stuff out loud, I have to like grab their sound and bring it to the teacher computer. Like, if we had our network better set up, like, or just our like computer network, I could like grab the file over the network and play it back from a teacher computer.
Right.
But with this Sonobus thing, what I could do is just like unmute their input, and it would just come out the main speakers. And so I'm like really looking forward to trying to get that set up in there. I think it'll be really cool. And like sort of make that class feel a lot more interactive. Little quality of life stuff, but it's cool. Like once you have the tech that functions, you can start like these applications start emerging. We're like, oh, that thing that I like never thought about doing because I couldn't think of a way to do it, all of a sudden is feasible. It's cool. Yeah, it's exciting.
Sweet. And that's what we're hoping to encourage you all to try these things out. And if you have, eventually we've talked about as we're setting up the studio, turning the live stream into more and more of a student-run thing. Having this time set aside for folks to learn about just running a live production, doing running their own show, this is that's what we're building it out for, and hopefully folks will be stoked about learning this stuff, and can lead to whether you're working for Access Humboldt or Keat or one of the local theaters or anything like that. Like there's definitely stuff out there, gigs out there for folks that want to try this stuff out and learn, and this would be a great place to come and start get your feet wet and see what you like to do, and so
come check it all out and nerd out with us.
Cool. All right, well, should we ramp up a bit early, run our little ending stream thing? And I think we may actually be back on we're talking about moving to a Friday, so potentially next week we may have a Friday slot.
Stay tuned.
We'll keep you up to date and posted on our socials about that. And I think we're gonna be doing some Blender stuff next week. I believe we had a little demo set aside just in case we didn't run long enough.
We're pretty good at talking though.
Yeah, we'll save it for next time. Maybe we'll give you a little preview. Let's see.
Oh yeah.
Quick little preview of next week.
Fun.
Let me switch
Can you slide
screens.
that, wiggle that thing around in the.
There we go.
For...
There we go.
Yeah.
Pretty cool. We're going to be looking at some text stuff. This is just a quick demo Cory and I were talking about. So we'll go over how to do something like that next week. Pretty basic setup, but can be really cool.
Sweet.
So yeah. All right, everybody. Well, I hope you're going to see us like duplicated through through space.
Oh,
All right. Cool. All right. Well, we will catch you all next week sometime, and we'll keep you posted on the new schedule. And yeah, cool.
All right. See you later.
Yeah, take it easy.